A story that has been incredibly difficult to tell is getting even more challenging today as the fog of war and, to put it kindly, irresponsible reporting leads to chaos, violence, and canceled diplomatic meetings that actually could have helped prevent more death and destruction. Shortly after this show ended yesterday, we started seeing reports about a hospital bombing inside of Gaza. The news was devastating. Video posted by the New York Times showing the moment of impact.
Ya Allah! Ya Allah! Ya Allah!
Claims from the Palestinians and their media enablers were that hundreds of people had been killed, children hurt. The Palestinians said Israel was responsible. And almost without question, the media and politicians on the left in particular took the news and ran with it. This is just a small sampling of the headlines in the social media posts. The BBC, hundreds killed in Israeli strike on Gaza hospital, Palestinians officials citing them. CNN, Palestinian Health Ministry says 200 to 300 people may have been killed in an Israeli strike on hospital in Gaza. New York Times, not to be outdone. Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospital, Palestinians say. The Times would later amend that headline to take out Israel, like on the fourth try, third or fourth. Al Jazeera English, Israeli air attacks have killed hundreds of Palestinians in hospital in Gaza City, where thousands are seeking medical treatment and shelter. And then there are other politicians, including, of course, Squad member Rashida Tlaib. You can always count on the Congresswoman to show restraint. Israel just bombed, she tweeted, the Baptist hospital, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children, patients, just like that. At POTUS, meaning president, this is what happens when you refuse to facilitate a ceasefire and help de-escalate. Your war and destruction only approach has opened my eyes, and many Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans like me will remember where you stood. Remember, this is the same person who kept her mouth noticeably shut, repeatedly refusing to condemn the murders of Israeli babies by Hamas terrorists. Remember? When the Fox News reporter got in her face over and over, she couldn't muster one word of sympathy. A similar, if slightly subdued message was also put out by her pal, Ilhan Omar, as she says IDF reportedly blew up the hospital. Now, the Israelis issued a statement initially saying in part that the IDF was investigating and wanted to prioritize accuracy. So at this point, a responsible journalist might say, let's take a step back, wait for more. But the seeds had already been sown, and man, were they dangerous. The people who hate Israel took the lack of an immediate denial as an admission of guilt, or perhaps they just wanted to believe it. Never mind that about 2 hours later, the IDF released its security assessment after reviewing all the facts, saying a barrage of rockets were fired by terrorists inside Gaza toward Israel. They passed in close proximity to the hospital at the time that hospital was hit. Israel understood quite early this came from Gaza. It came from the Palestinian side. Videos were released, surveillance footage appearing to show a large barrage of rockets being launched from northern Gaza at Israel. By the way, this was an attempt to kill civilians, Israeli civilians, followed by a massive blast on the Gaza side. Another video here, and what the IDF says is raw video, showing a rocket aimed at Israel, misfiring and exploding at the same moment the hospital was hit. Look at that. In fact, one video was actually airing on Al Jazeera. It was broadcast live, appearing to show a failed rocket launch at the same time of the hospital attack. You can see it. You can see the missile explode and go off course. And then you can see the hospital explosion. So that's the assessment. But there's more. An IDF spokesman also came out and said it wasn't even Hamas that fired this rocket. It was Islamic Jihad, which is another armed group inside of Gaza. Watch this.
I can confirm that an analysis of the IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the Al-Hali al-Ma'adi hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. I repeat, this is the responsibility of Islamic Jihad that killed innocents in the hospital in Gaza.
We should say here, Islamic Jihad is denying Israel's claim, saying it had no operations in the area. Weird, where did all those rockets come from? Because we see them. Israel has released what it says now is a roughly 1-minute intercepted call between two Hamas operatives who discuss the rocket that landed on the Gaza hospital. We have voiced over the translated part of that call. Listen.
I am telling you, this is the first time that we see a missile like this falling.
And so that's why we are saying it belongs to the Palestinian Islamic.
What?
They are saying it belongs to Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
It's from us?
It looks like it.
Who says this?
They are saying that the shrapnel from the missile is local shrapnel and not like Israeli shrapnel.
I mean, you're not going to get closer to a smoking gun than that. Folks responding online to the IDF's account refuse to believe this is real, of course. Last night, President Biden released a statement that said, in part, I'm outraged and deeply saddened by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza and the terrible loss of life that resulted, and have directed my national security team to continue gathering information about what exactly happened. The president was already wheels up en route to Israel when we learned that a planned meeting he had in Jordan was suddenly off. So much for diplomacy. Done. Good job, Palestinians. Good job, Islamic Jihad. You got what you wanted. Meantime, Hezbollah declared that today, they're up in, of course, Lebanon, and they hate Israel as much as Hamas does. And they've declared that today, the day of President Biden's visit, should be a, quote, an unprecedented day of anger against Israel. But no need to wait until Wednesday. Rage was already unfolding in the wake of this allegation that it was Israel, and the media enablers reports that it was Israel killing 500 civilians in a hospital, helpless civilians at the evil Israelis' hand, that led to these scenes around the globe.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Shabab! تعالوا يا شباب ارجعوا يا شباب الله أكبر الله أكبر.
You get it. Those were scenes from Amman, Jordan. Protesters taking to the streets, trying to gain access to the Israeli embassy. Security forces managing to push them back. Now to Turkey, where a large crowd gathered near the Israeli consulate. Watch. Look at the numbers. Police had to prevent protesters from storming the consulate. Israel has now told its citizens to get out of that country. In probably one of the most disturbing scenes, protesters outside of the U.S. embassy in Beirut, Lebanon, raising the Palestinian flag alongside the flag of Hamas outside of our facility. Watch this. All right, that's enough of that. Following those protests, the U.S. State Department authorized a voluntary departure from Lebanon of Americans working for the embassy, along with their families. Over in Iran, this is just stunning tape. A massive crowd developed outside of the British and French embassies in Tehran. protesters chanting death to Israel, death to France, death to England, death to all the Westerners. They burned Israeli flags and threw eggs at the wall of the French embassy. In Toronto, Canada, pro-Hamas crowds actually chanted for the decapitation of Israelis. They're chanting off with their heads. What in the actual F? Meantime, here at home in New York City, protesters burned the Jewish state's Star of David flag and celebrated. I'm sorry, but that Allahu Akbar makes my skin crawl. It makes my skin crawl. This is what you hear before they kill innocent civilians. This is their rallying cry when they're burning things and calling for beheadings. It makes my skin crawl. At one point, the pro-Palestinian protesters screamed, "You bombed a hospital," which, okay, no. And counter-protesters supporting Israel screamed back at them, "Terrorists." Overnight, Israel also released what it says is footage from the area before and after the rocket launch. This is important. Saying it appears the scene of the fire was not even the hospital. It was a parking lot near the hospital. Saying there are no visible craters, unlike the damage caused by an IDF ordinance. President Biden is now in Israel. He's meeting with leaders, including Benjamin Netanyahu, and this morning had this to say.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
They're not sure. Why are they not sure? Why? Because the media took the Hamas claim that Israel did it and killed 500 suffering civilians and ran with it. President Biden expected to speak by phone with the Egyptian and the Palestinian leaders who canceled on him as he headed out to the Middle East. In the meantime, the fighting continues, and Israel is said to be amassing some tens of thousands of soldiers preparing for a possible ground invasion into Gaza. The Genucel Dark Spot Corrector sale ends promptly this Sunday, and guess what ends with it? That crazy 70% discount. That's right, all gone Sunday night. Go to Genucel.com/MK60 right now. Don't delay one more minute. Here's Marsha from Austin, Texas, writing, "My puffy eyes were gone after 24 hours and 2 treatments. Dark spots fading and definitely less laugh lines. A win all around." Take advantage of the Genucel most popular package, which now includes the Dark Spot Corrector, plus the classic Genucel bags and puffiness treatment and immediate effects product, all for 70% off. Try the best skincare in the world for yourself, completely risk-free. Go to Genucel.com/MK60 today and start looking years, even decades younger tomorrow. All orders upgraded to free shipping. See results day one and get compliments everywhere you go. Guaranteed. That's GENUCEL.com/MK60, Genucel.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.